What will a return to classrooms in the fall look like?
So I think that's a very good question that we really, neither one of us can probably answer absolutely 100% correctly right now. So every day, all of us are watching the data to see what happens, but we're certainly planning for many different scenarios. We're planning for a face-to-face scenario, which, is what we would all hope for. But I think we're also planning for a hybrid scenario and also probably a fully virtual scenario that might happen at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, the district is a really kind of thought about a color system that we kind of wanted to communicate out to the families. One is a green, in which we are in full session. The other one is a yellow when there's a blended model. The blended model would be an A and B schedule. A would be students would be in school on Monday and Thursday, and on the B, students would be there on Tuesday and Friday. And the opposite days, the students would be learning remote, with all of the students learning remotely on Wednesday. And then the red system would be totally remote. And so that would be the last opportunity, is if for some reason there was obviously a huge outbreak or some sort, we would be all remote.
What safety precautions will be put in place to protect students, parents, and staff?
So we're obviously, we talked a little bit about this earlier, Jaden, we're going to have a mask policy in place for all students and all staff. So if you're riding our buses, once you get onto campus and you're inside, we expect you to take those precautions and either wear a mask or some kind of face covering or face shield. We'll be taking temperatures for all students and staff as they arrive. We have some technology that'll allow us to kind of scan our students as they come in the door. And we'll also be taking temperatures on buses so that if we do end up with a student on the bus who is spiking a fever, that we can call ahead and have their families arranged to have them picked up as we arrive at school. So we've got those two precautions in place, as well as deep cleaning. We're taking some time each week for deep cleaning, obviously cleaning surfaces, lots of hand sanitizing and hand washing. We're going to kind of have a check in, check out, hand wash in, hand wash out every time you enter or exit any kind of place in the building, whether that's going out to recess and then coming back in, before you have lunch, after you have lunch. All of those times we'll have hand washing and hand sanitizing in place. So those are a few of them.
Yeah, and in addition to that, for us, and it's going to obviously look a little different for our system, but many of the same types of things. Obviously we have signage galore that we're going to be putting up. We've installed plexiglass wherever we can theoretically put it at. And, obviously we're going to have a ton of precautions and things of that nature as a result. But there's going to be a lot of the same things that Washington Local's doing as well. It might look a little different though.
If there were to be an outbreak of COVID-19 within one of your schools, what would you guys do to protect students, staff, and other people that may be in contact with people who have tested positive for COVID-19?
What we would do with that is obviously communication is an important part of that. So we would make sure we're communicating with our families. We would be able to contact and make sure that we are reached out specifically to those staff and families that may have been in contact. Like I said before, we have our color system, so that might be something that we might have to engage in terms of our color system. So a school might end up starting off being in one color and then move to the next one because of some of those concerns as well. And then obviously there'll be additional cleaning that's engaged in that process potentially, as well as different information that may be put out.
Very similar. So the health department has been really good working with us so far about establishing some of those procedures, as well as, the state department of health, but our local health department really has been very good about helping us walk through those. This is how we're going to notify you. This is what comes next. That contact tracing, all of that takes place from the health department standpoint, but all of the same kinds of things. And Mr. Gant is absolutely right. Communication will be the key. There's a lot of rumor and innuendo. Anytime somebody's not in the office, or right now everybody worries that there's something more sinister going on. So I think that open communication will be very important.
Is there anything else you would like to be made known to Washington Local and Toledo Public students, families, staff, or anyone who may be part of this reopening process?
I think we're both working really hard. All of the local districts are working really hard for a safe return to school. And I think part of it for us is we don't really know what the data is going to show us day to day to day, right? So I think for parents to be ready for a backup plan. At a moment's notice, we could be out of school. So you need to be thinking in the month of July about what happens, A, if we can't start at all, or B, if we have to be in a hybrid model, or C, if we're completely virtually, because virtual school will certainly look different than it did in the spring. In the spring, that was an emergency. This will not be an emergency. This will be regular school that we're expecting kids to attend every day. So having that plan in place for where is my child going to be so that their learning can continue. And that will be, that'll be new for some parents who haven't had to think. They think about school as the place they depend on so that they can go to work. And this year, the backup plan is going to be so important. So we really want families to start to think about that right now.
Yeah, and I couldn't echo that anymore. I could tell you one thing that's really important to note is that I know in Washington local and in Toledo public schools and some of these and other our local schools, our major concern is making sure that we keep our families safe. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we are getting information and trying to utilize that the best way that we can when we get it. And so the flexibility on our part is extremely important, and it's important for you all or the families to understand that we need flexibility with them as well. We will do our best, and I know that Washington Local feels the same thing, is that our job is to make sure we're communicating. And so when we're communicating appropriately, what we would love to have is the parents to understand that we're doing the best we can with that, and that they need to be flexible as well as we need to be too as well.
The White House, they've been having some conflict with the CDC when it comes to guidelines with reopening schools. Are you guys going to be taking any feedback from the CDC or the White House, or is this going to be a completely local operation?
Well, for us, I could tell you that our major focus is our families that we serve. So whatever we need to do in order to make sure that they're doing it safely, we will do. So what does that mean? We're going to work with our local health department. We're going to seek the guidance of the state and whenever we need it as well, Ohio Department of Education. We're going to look at all those resources, CDC. We'll look at all those resources, but at the end of the day, the way we see it is we are here to serve our students. And so whatever we need to do that, we'll use that information to make sure that we can use it.
Absolutely. What happens in Toledo is far removed from what happens in Washington, D.C. So whereas we certainly take the CDC's guidance very seriously, and that's a good tool in our toolbox, what's most important is the information that we're getting locally. We have to keep our staff safe. On top of everything else, on top of keeping our families safe and everything else, if I don't have bus drivers because we have an outbreak at a bus garage, then I can't get kids to school. So our precautions certainly include a lot of safety around our employees to make sure that they're here to serve our Washington local families.